Greetings, friends. The American Sam Harris and the Brit Douglas Murray are the two most celebrated critics of the Islamization of the West. I find this very odd because both men are atheists, and the rise of atheism has caused the weakening, especially of Western Europe. It's lost all sense of confidence in itself. Diversity, multiculturalism, globalism, all these things are fundamentally atheist, just like most communist regimes were officially atheist. Sam Harris and Douglas Murray are great speakers and intellectuals. They're completely right to criticize the West's acceptance of Islam. But atheists stand for nothing. They don't believe in cosmic justice. For them, there is no other world after death. And if you believe that, then there's no reason for you to act morally in this world. Sure, atheists and evolutionists have made plenty of attempts to show that morality can be explained by self-interest. For example, helping the poor can boost your reputation and therefore help your self-interest. But none of these attempts are convincing. There are many people who help strangers and never receive anything in return. In fact, many altruistic people suffer greatly in this world and never receive anything in return. And many people who do bad, they get rich. Self-interest is a factor in morality, but there's clearly something more to explain here, since most of us have only vague certainty of how and when we'll ever be rewarded for our good deeds. The real reason for morality is our conscience. As Dinesh D'Souza states in his book, Life After Death, The Evidence, he says, quote, "Imagine a shopkeeper who routinely increases his profits by cheating his customers. So smoothly does he do this that he is never exposed and his reputation remains unimpeachable. Even though the man is successful in the game of survival, if he has a conscience, it will be nagging at him from the inside. It may not be strong enough to make him change his ways, but it will at least make him feel bad and perhaps ultimately despise himself." End quote. So atheists have no explanation for this. The rest of us do have an explanation. We know deep down that there is another world. There is some kind of cosmic justice. It doesn't matter whether you consider yourself religious or not. The problem is that we sometimes forget. We may know something intuitively, but if we grow up in a culture that teaches us not to remember cosmic justice, then our morals soon begin slipping. Soon the men forget that they're supposed to be directing the society, and they let the women direct society instead. On the other hand, Eastern European countries are proudly Christian. They're also resilient in the face of the Islamic invasion. In those countries, women have much less power to control men. Eastern Europe is still gynocentric, but much less so than in Western Europe and North America. Look at Poland. Virtually no terrorist attacks have happened there. The Polish have strong national cohesion. Spiritual beliefs are undoubtedly an important part of this cohesion. This illustrates that an atheistic society cannot endure for very long before another stronger culture replaces it. Douglas Murray claims to be a cultural Christian and not a believing Christian. I know what he's trying to say, and I've got some sympathy. Sometimes I think of myself as a cultural Christian. I live according to moral codes that are inherited from Christianity, as most of us do. Obviously, neither I nor everyone else always adhere exactly to these codes, but the idea of these moral standards, for example, not to steal, are there in the backs of our minds. We have a conscience, in other words. Conversely, a believing Christian is taken as the more devoted, literal follower of the Bible, though of course the Bible's been interpreted in many different ways, Catholics, Lutherans, Evangelists, Orthodox, Ethiopians, etc. But all of those groups think of themselves as Christians, not merely cultural Christians who've taken what they want from the Bible and disregarded all the rest. For them, it's merely a difference of interpretation of the same book in all its entirety. So ultimately, the distinction between a cultural and a believing Christian is false. I may call myself a Christian in Ghana if I happen to be surrounded by devoted Christians, as about 70% of the population of that country refers to themselves as Christians. But I would do that in that context to be polite and to acknowledge that I do have a Christian background in in my Western country of Canada and Britain and Western Europe before that. But obviously I'm not a real Christian, because I don't accept all Christian doctrine. I don't think I have to accept the blood of Jesus. The point is that a true Christian believes in cosmic justice, and a true Christian tries to live according to that principle. And I do the same. So do most of us. So I can find a lot of common ground with true Christians. It's the same with Buddhists, Hindus, Jews, and even our enemy, the Muslims. That's not to say all religions are equally good. If I had to choose between the two, I would rather Europe be Christian, not Muslim, but I have more respect for the Muslims than I do for the atheists. So why on earth are people celebrating Sam Harris and Douglas Murray for their articulate analysis of Islam? They're part of the problem. All these men do is offer a negative argument to destroy an obvious villain. They don't actually offer us anything of substance for living our lives. They don't explain why we should be moral. Only the principle of cosmic justice and another world beyond this one can make us remember our conscience. No civilization can resist Islam unless it does that. Hasta luego, amigos.